Yeah, he got his stitches out, and then hopefully today he's going to get his pick line out. So he's making progress.
Once he comes back, what kind of impact do you think he'll have, and what role do you see him in?
Well, first of all, he has a big impact on our team just from the standpoint of being an older guy who's been around college basketball. He's very, very unselfish. Uh, the other day after practice, he addressed the team just about the level of appreciation that you should have as a basketball player, to have the opportunity you have and not to take that for granted. So it starts there. Then on the court, to be honest with you, he's been out the majority of the time that he's been here. And so he's been a little bit unlucky with that. So I think that kind of remains to be seen exactly what his role is going to be, but he can shoot the ball. He's a guy that, is a dependable guy to do the right thing. So look forward to him coming back because I think it will add depth to our team.
I was talking with Kendall about his career and his life and where he's at. Here's a guy who's always been a role player here. But he obviously wants to finish in the right way, and he feels like he's trying to do the right things. What have you seen from him? Just an older guy, who he looks at freshmen and sees kids.
Yeah, they are kids.
What do you want from him?
Well, I gave all of our guys actually going into the first game last Friday what we call a game plan. And what it is it's a picture of them, and then over the picture there's a variety of the things that they do well on the court, that when they do these things, it really, really helps our team. And so for each guy, it was a little bit different. And for each guy, there was maybe 12, 15, maybe 18, 20 different components of what goes into them being their best. To me, roles are always evolving, and they're always dependent on who's around you and the situation you're in. So I think it's a little bit misguided to try to pigeonhole a guy into a specific spot, because one thing about basketball is every game is so different. In one game you might see zone. In another game you might get pressed the whole game when you're playing West Virginia or someone like that. In another game a guy might be in foul trouble. So they're so very different, and what you have to do is adjust and respond and do the best thing you can to help your team win in that moment. And I think that's what Kendall's done a nice job of so far, is providing a level of steadying leadership between him and Shaq for really a group of guys outside of those two and Mo that have very little understanding about what goes into taking a leadership role on a team. And that's something that we're going to have to learn relatively quickly with our sophomores and then our freshmen.
Excuse me, has he mentioned anything about wanting to be a college coach afterwards to you?
Kendall? We've talked about different things after college. One of the challenges is getting guys to think beyond playing, because, and it was this way for me when I was that age. All you think about, if your identity is so strong as a basketball player, is just playing that game and how much it means to you and the passion you have for playing. So it's really challenging to think beyond that, but the reality is the ball is going to stop bouncing for every guy on our team, at some point. And when it does, they're still going to be relatively young. And that's why, people ask, what's your job or what is it about? Our purpose is to transform our guys' lives by helping them become the best version of themselves. And part of that relates very, very closely with the mission of the University of Texas. And part of that is very, very much about basketball. But these guys are whole people. You can't just compartmentalize and say, well, here's the basketball part over here, and here's the personal part over here, and here's the family part over here. Everything impacts everything. And while they're evolving and growing as players, they also need to continue to evolve and grow in terms of what they're going to do in their life to be successful. And I think Kendall has been on an interesting journey with that in his time here, and hopefully that will continue to move in the right direction.
a lot of talk from the players ADU about the importance of the process. I don't know if you can define it or summarize it, but what exactly is the process as it relates to you guys as team this year?
Well, I mean, the process is simply what goes into creating the result that you want to create. And there are short-term processes, and then there are long-term processes. And, for us, there's a process of what goes into winning, and then there's a process of what goes into the components of winning. So, for instance, winning teams are often or always great defensive teams. There's a process of what goes into getting stops, playing in a stance, communication, defending screens the right way. Obviously, we got to get better at blocking out, rebounding, seeing the man and seeing the ball. All those things, in addition to a lot of other things, that's part of the process, things that you control. What we love about the process is it's largely under your control. We're judged, we understand, as coaches and players by results. We get that. That's kind of what we signed up for. But the reality is if we're just a slave to results and we don't focus on what goes into the results, then we're really relinquishing our control over what creates that. So we need to continue to focus on what we can control and what goes into it.
Last night, it looked like you ran a small lineup for the first time this year, with Shaq being the only big guy on the floor. What do you expect from that lineup when you put it out there?
We call that our green lineup because we want them to go. And we haven't practiced it a lot. It's challenging to practice because you have to have two teams in practice, and we really have 6 scholarship perimeter guys. So it's typically on those 2 teams. You have 3 on one team, 3 on the other team. But we've got a ways to go to learn how to play that way. But it is a different way to go about things because you can get 4 guys out there that can all pass, handle, and shoot the basketball. And with our team as it stands right now, particularly with Mo out, we have 3 bigs that we play at the 4 and the 5. And we like playing 2 of those guys at once. But sometimes due to fatigue, due to foul trouble, due to matchups, it might make more sense to have 4 perimeter guys in. Trust me, moving forward, long-term here, I think with our ability, knock on wood, to recruit talented bigs, we will typically have at least 2 of those guys in the game. I could see even moving forward next year and beyond playing 3 bigs at a time. But sometimes this year it's going to make sense for us to have 4 perimeter guys in. And it does give us a different look because now you have 4 guys on the floor that can shoot and pass and handle.
So that being said, are you tracking how much time that Jared and James are on the floor, Shaq and James, to see what combination works? Or?
We track everything, Brian. I mean, we have, after every game, after every practice, I get a thick stat packet. So we're measuring everything. We're measuring lineups. We're measuring plus minus, how efficient different lineups are, how fast they play. So yeah, we're highly aware of that. And one of the things that we'll do over time is we'll look at, with that green lineup, are we better, in terms of plus minus, or are we worse? Do we rebound better when we have 2 bigs in? You would think we do. Do we play faster? All those things we'll measure.
Speaking of playing faster, I mean, it's obviously just 2 games, small sample size, but I think you guys are at around 14 seconds on offense in terms of possession length, much faster than last year. Is that something you think will continue, or is that kind of just a matchup type thing, or what's the ideal tempo, you think?
Well, the ideal is to score on the offensive possession that you're in. So if it takes you 5 seconds to do so, that's terrific. But if it takes you 28, 29, 30 seconds to score, then you go about that. Now, I've always enjoyed fast-paced, up-tempo basketball. I think guys like playing that way. What we learned when we were coaching at VCU is sometimes guys say they want to play fast, but what goes into it, the discipline, the decision-making, they might not be as familiar with or as comfortable with. So, yeah, we would like to play fast on offense if we can go get a great shot. But I'll tell you this, we need to make sure we're playing through our bigs. We need to make sure that we get a great shot. And if it takes longer to do so, then we would rather slow down. You know, one of the things that happens when you get in league play is teams have a very good way of slowing you down. You know, and a lot of those games do come down to half court, what happens on the offensive and defensive end. So we've got to get better at both.
Last night you talked some about Andrew, but since he's been on campus, how have you seen him improve, and how do you think he's moving to that guard?
Yeah, he's learning a lot. First of all, he's a great kid from a great family who wants to be highly successful. He has very, very big goals in basketball, and they're attainable goals. But they're also goals that he's going to have to work and develop and progress at a high level to get to. And what I've seen in him that I'm really excited about is he's getting more and more comfortable at getting really up close and personal with the process. A lot of times in high school, these guys are very results oriented. These guys can be very perception oriented, and that's the world that we've created around them. That's not their fault. That's our culture. And so then when they get here, now we start talking about all the things that you have to do behind the scenes to be effective as a college basketball player. Things like hydration, things like stretching, taking care of your body, watching film and breaking down little intricacies of your game. Those things are not sexy. Those things are not glamorous. Those things do not end up on Twitter. But those things go into becoming the best you can be. And for Andrew and all of our freshmen, our sophomores for that matter, it's a matter of them buying into that stuff and understanding what's going to go into their success. And the faster they can do that, the faster they're going to be successful.
Have you seen him reach out to past players, whether it's Isaiah or someone like that, about his role?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Andrew, he's very interested in seeing guys that have been successful before him and, how have they gone about things. So, certainly, Isaiah, when he was around, TJ's been around some because he's in class. I think all of our guys have a great level of respect for him and understanding that he did it at the highest level here, and then he went on to the NBA and played, for a decade there and had a lot of success.
You've got a young team, and so traveling is something that a lot of them may not be used to for a game. What are you going to do to make sure that doesn't get in their head too much? Well,
it's going to be interesting. Again, it's just a learning experience. We've got one more home game before we go to New York, so we've got to make sure we turn the page quickly and understand what we're going to need to do against Eastern Washington, because they're a terrific shooting team and they're a very, very dangerous team. And then to answer your question, after that game, we'll go on the road, and one of the things we'll do before we leave is we'll talk about this is what we do when we go on the road, and we have to reinforce that as coaches. We need our older guys to make sure that they're helping the younger guys because it is a little bit different than playing at home.
Do you think perimeter shooting can be a strength for you guys?
It can. We got to keep working on getting high quality outside shots and then knocking them down. For instance, Eric had a lot of good looks last night that just didn't go. I thought he was a little bit he lacked a little bit of readiness on a couple of those shots where it was like shooting was almost a response to being open as opposed to being ready to shoot and then letting it fly, because it's the right play to make. But he's a really conscientious kid. I think he's done the best job of any of our perimeter guys owning our message of get the ball inside, create opportunities for Shaq, for Jarrett, for James, and I appreciate his growth in that area. But he's still a guy who can score and shoot the ball from outside. So, yeah, I think it can be a strength. But, they say you live by the three and you die by the three. It's not always the most consistent thing. I would say our team probably right now is a good shooting team, not a great shooting team. But, you know, that's one of those things where 5, 10, 15 games in, you look at the percentages, and it doesn't really matter what label I put on the team. It's what the percentages say.
What did obviously fans got to see Jared was post move and his dunk last night, but there's more to his game than that. Obviously, what do you want him to be? Do you want him to be a solid interior guy? Do you want him to be a mid-range shooter? What do you want him to be?
I want Jared to be the best version of Jared. And the thing that I think has been tremendous about his transition is that, remember now, he literally signed on a Friday and moved in on a Saturday. And so unlike most other freshmen, he had next to no time to wrap his mind around the transition he was about to make. And he's been phenomenal at really trying to understand our process, be it on the court, be it off the court, be it academic, be it in the weight room, and then trying to own it. And like any other freshman, that's been an adjustment. That's been different than where he was last year at this time. So in terms of your question about his game, he's a guy that can be multidimensional. He has a lot of things that he can do really well. I think he's learning how to play harder and harder in different situations. You know, I thought the play of the game against Incarnate Word was the ball that he saved for us and was able to call timeout. And the thing that I realized in watching that clip over and over again was that was a max effort play. He gave maximum effort because he knew we had to have that ball. And Jared is one of those guys, because the game, he's such a natural with the game. As he learns more and more to give max effort on different plays, that's going to make him more and more effective on the floor. And he's come a long way in that regard just in the time that he's been here, and I think you're going to continue to see growth in that area.
That specific play, do you think that was a natural, instinctive play, or he thought, oh shit, we can't lose this possession, we've got to go get it?
Well, I think those things are one and the same. I think you're instinctive because you realize the importance of the moment. He's a very instinctive player, and he's also a competitor. That was a competitor making that play. And that's one thing that I've always respected about him is, you know, people talk about guys being laid back or, you know, whatever the person, but that doesn't matter. Jared is a competitor. Like when it comes down to, okay, me against you, who's going to make this play, who's going to get this ball or this rebound, he competes. And for our team, you know, that's going to be a big deal for all of our guys, is the level to which we're willing to say, hey, I'm going to play at a highly competitive level for this whole game. And that's really, for us, growth-wise, we got to get to the point where 40 minutes means 40 minutes. And we did better last night than we did in our first game, but we still got a ways to go.
Two last ones. Thanks all.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.